Hello, everyone, and welcome to an impromptu webinar, Knowing Your Rights About Paid Sick Time. I know, like so many of you, our world has changed so much in the last week, and we were actually originally going to host a Facebook Live event at our office with several staff, but in the last few days, we got the mandate to work remotely, which changed our plans to do this presentation virtually. So I'm guessing this is the new normal, folks. We all have to be creative and flexible. So my name is Emily Wakeling. I'm the Chief Development and Strategy Officer at A Better Balance, and I'm pleased to introduce our fantastic staff attorney, Cassandra Gomez, one of our experts around paid sick leave.
Hi, everyone. Delighted to be with you today. For those of you who are not familiar with A Better Balance, we are the premier nonprofit that works with communities across the country to advance justice for workers, caregivers, and families in the workplace, especially those in low-wage jobs. We use the power of the law to ensure that no worker has to choose between their paycheck and the people they love.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks, everyone, for tuning in today. As A Better Balance has been fighting for paid sick time literally since we were founded in 2006, we know a few things about this topic, so let's dig right in. Cassandra, as many of us worry about what this pandemic means for ourselves, it also makes a lot of us think about the millions of workers that do not have the luxury of working from home and do not have paid sick leave for themselves or their families. What will workers do if they cannot go to work because they're sick or they desperately need their paycheck? So some people might be going to work sick. I know A Better Balance has been working on this issue for quite some time. Can you give us a landscape overview of what has been going on?
Yes, A Better Balance has been drafting, passing, and implementing laws to guarantee that all Americans have access to paid sick time when they need it to care for themselves and for their loved ones over the course of the last decade. And as a result of our efforts and those of our partners, 11 states and 23 cities and counties have full paid sick leave laws. We've also been working at the federal level to pass federal legislation that will cover all American workers. But at this moment, most importantly, we're working with federal and state legislators to pass emergency paid sick time laws that will address the needs of workers to care for themselves and their families during this current public health crisis. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, though.
Okay, great. So of the general paid sick time laws A Better Balance has worked on in passing in states and localities, what does that cover?
So there's lots of variety in the laws that we've worked on passing in the various states that we've worked in, but there are some fundamental similarities. So, for example, the covered purposes that one can use their paid sick leave time for are pretty standard. So a worker can use their paid sick time for preventive care, as well as for mental or physical illnesses or injuries. There's also the use for family care. So that allows all workers to also care for their loved ones. And the definition of family varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. That's another thing that A Better Balance has been working on closely to make sure that our laws have inclusive family definitions that allow workers to care for the loved ones that are closest to them. There's also the standard accrual period that bases a worker's paid sick time on their hours worked. So that allows part-time workers to have access to paid sick time as well. Although the amount of paid sick time and the accrual rate will vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. And then another pretty standard provision is that generally after about 3 days of consecutive absence, that's when employers can ask workers for some type of verification on their paid sick leave, such as a doctor's note. And then another important provision to note is that some laws include specific public health emergency closure measures. So, for example, there are many jurisdictions across the country that include these closure provisions. Excuse me. Those include Arizona, Michigan, New Jersey, Oregon, Rhode Island, Vermont, Washington State, and several other cities and counties which are listed here throughout the United States. But for more information on specific paid sick leave protections that jurisdictions provide, workers are welcome to visit A Better Balance's paid sick time resources page.
Absolutely. We have so many amazing resources on our website. Cassandra, if we could delve a little bit more into some of these emergency measures that are literally changing minute to minute. What is the latest going on with the emergency federal legislation? I know the House of Representatives has acted by passing the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which recognizes the needs of all these American workers at this critical time. But what are some of the next steps that need to be taken so this can get passed?
So first of all, we at A Better Balance especially thank Speaker Pelosi and Representative Rosa DeLauro for their tireless leadership in shepherding this legislation. For the first time in history, Congress is addressing the need of workers for paid sick time for themselves or some close family members when impacted by the coronavirus. And although the bill has passed the House, it must be passed by the Senate, and we've been told that there will be technical amendments which might make some changes. So details are still uncertain, but the bill was passed by the House on Friday. The bill, which was passed by the House on Friday, provides up to 80 hours or 10 8-hour days of sick time and up to 12 weeks of partially paid leave for workers impacted by the coronavirus, either because they are ill, caring for a sick family member, home due to a quarantine, or caring for a child who is home from school or daycare due to a corona-related closure. So at the same time, states are working on emergency packages, and we will expect to keep you updated about those laws as well when they pass, as we expect that they will.
That's great. Cassandra, the bill that passed in the House, does it cover all workers?
No, we're disappointed that this bill leaves out workers who work for large businesses of more than 500 employees, which would be at least 6.5 million workers. So those workers also need protection. Failure to protect them is both unfair and dangerous for public health. We're also disappointed that the definition of a family member in the bill is restrictive, and it leaves out care for adult children, grandparents, and grandchildren, and others who workers rely on for care. Nevertheless, we urge immediate passage of this bill as a first step to recognizing that American workers need their government to protect them in times of sickness, and we hope to be working on further legislation to help workers at the federal level. As we work to ensure that all Americans have basic rights with respect to their ability to care for themselves and their family members, we urge the Senate to pass this bill immediately and the President to sign it.
Thank you. So can you share with us who is impacted most by the lack of paid sick leave laws in this country?
Yeah, workers who are less likely to receive paid sick time, such as low-wage workers, hourly workers, service restaurant workers, and as you can imagine, this compounds public health risks. And women and people of color are generally also more affected by a lack of paid sick leave. And domestic workers and undocumented workers will definitely be affected by a lack of access to paid sick leave.
What do you want these workers to know?
I want them to know that they can turn to A Better Balance as a resource. So we have many resources available that help explain paid sick and paid family or medical leave rights that workers have available to them. For example, we have a Know Your Rights resource that explains your rights to paid sick leave. And workers can also access our helpline. Our helpline is staffed during business hours, Monday through Friday, but workers can call in and leave a message anytime and receive a callback within a matter of days.
Thank you. And if I could pipe in here, our helpline is fantastic. We've helped thousands of workers a year, and we're definitely seeing an uptick now with what's going on with the coronavirus. But I also want to remind people to stay in touch with us through all of our platforms because we're constantly updating our website, which you can see a little screenshot here. And there's, again, so many resources posted about paid sick and paid family medical leave. But A Better Balance is posting updates on social media, so I suggest that you follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you search for A Better Balance, we pull right up and you'll get constant updates. We also encourage you to contact your local state officials as well and ask them to support paid sick time if you live in a jurisdiction or state that is not providing any paid sick time. But as we know, we're sort of awaiting this emergency federal bill to be passed. So Cassandra, what does A Better Balance recommend employers do, despite what the laws are? I know when we say employer, that can mean large companies, small businesses, families that employ childcare and other domestic help.
Yeah, so as we've talked about a little bit today, the legal situation is changing rapidly, but every employer should remember that the laws create a floor, not a ceiling. So we encourage employers to provide as generous of policies as they can to keep workers safe and with pay, because they're going to need as much economic support as possible.
Great, Cassandra, agreed. For all those who've tuned in today, we're going to wrap up with another plug for you to contact our helpline if you cannot find the information that you need on our website. But we also wanted to make an appeal to you to donate whatever you can to A Better Balance at this time. We are literally working around the clock to help push through legislation around paid sick time, emergency and not, and help workers know their rights. This is no small feat. So please go to www.abetterbalance.org, click on that donate button. We couldn't be more grateful for your support. So have a wonderful day, everyone, and please contact us if you have any questions. We'd be happy to walk you through your rights or any questions that you have.
Yes, thanks everybody. Take care and stay healthy.
Yes, stay healthy. Thank you.